We end today's show with professor and author Stephen Salaita. Last year, his job offer for a tenured position for the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign was withdrawn after he posted tweets harshly critical of the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza. The school had come under pressure from donors, from students, parents, and alumni critical of Salaita's views, with some threatening to withdraw financial support. The move was criticized both in and outside of the school, with administrators accused of political censorship.
Thousands of academics signed petitions calling for Professor Salaita's reinstatement, and several lecturers canceled appearances at the school in protest. The American Association of University Professors called the school's actions inimical to academic freedom and due process. In August, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign Chancellor Phyllis Wise resigned after she was implicated in a scandal that involved attempting to hide emails detailing Salaita's ouster. Also in August, a federal judge allowed for a lawsuit filed by Professor Salaita against the university to proceed. We're joined now by Stephen Salaita, the Edward Said Chair of American Studies at the American University of Beirut. His book, Uncivil Rights, Palestine and the Limits of Academic Freedom, has just been published. Also with us, his attorney, Maria LaHood, senior staff attorney at the Center for Constitutional Rights. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Professor Salaita, talk about these latest developments. What has taken place around your case?
So over the summer, there was an entire sort of Freedom of Information Act dump of emails that led to, I guess, an intensification of the scandalization of the situation. It led to the resignation of Chancellor Wise and then her second in command, the provost. And
explain what happened.
Well, the emails that were released sort of pointed to a wide range of interests, sort of converging around the issue of my Twitter feed, which I find both amusing and mortifying simultaneously. And there was donor pressure, and there was a conscious effort to circumvent the open records laws, but also a conscious effort to undermine all of the normal processes of faculty governance.
There were allegations that the chancellor and others at the school were using private email accounts to avoid having their conversations about you and their reaction to you accessible through public information requests.
This is sounding presidential.
Yes, exactly. And they actually said in writing, you know, I'm deleting the emails as I send them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the chancellor was forced to resign. And explain who else. The board also changed?
No, nobody from the board has resigned. The former chairman of the Board of Trustees, Christopher Kennedy, he rotated off.
Christopher Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's son?
That's correct. Yes, he was the chairman of the board that presided over, I guess, my termination last August. But he has rotated off. So the chancellor is gone and the provost is gone. But the board remains intact.
And Maria LaHood, the status of the lawsuit and the grounds upon which you are pursuing a legal action against the university?
Professor Salaita's case against the university is for his breach of contract as well as violations of his First Amendment rights and his due process rights. And the university attempted to dismiss it, claiming there was no contract, claiming he had, his tweets weren't protected, and the court rejected that, saying, of course there was a contract. If there wasn't, the academic hiring process as we know it would cease to exist. And of course his tweets are protected by the First Amendment. They implicate every central concern. They, are in the public interest. They were in a public forum. And, the university acknowledges that it was the tweets were the reason for his termination.
Mm. So are you hoping to come back to the United States and teach at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign?
Sure, that's the primary concern of the lawsuit.
Explain what happened for those who haven't followed your case, where you were working, and then the job offer, et cetera.
Okay. I was at Virginia Tech as a tenured English professor. I was offered the job at the University of Illinois. I subsequently signed a contract at the University of Illinois, then countersigned, and everything was set up for me to move and begin my position. Within around a week of my physical move from Virginia to Illinois, I received a termination letter out of nowhere from the chancellor, which just sort of threw my life into disarray. I all of a sudden didn't have an income and health insurance or a place to live. We had to cancel the contract.
Your whole family was moving.
Yeah, my whole family was moving. And so we ended up living with my parents. And then after around a year of sort of going to different places around the country and speaking about the situation, I was offered a one-year visiting professorship at the American University of Beirut, and that's where I am now.
I wanted to ask you about the firestorm this has created in academic circles. The American Association of University Professors obviously has come out in support of you. But there was a particular professor at University of Illinois, Carrie Nelson, who was a former leader of the AUP, who basically has supported the university, even though he himself in the past had supported Ward Churchill after Ward Churchill was fired by the University of Colorado, has supported Norman Finkelstein when Norman has been gone after in terms of tenure situations by other universities. Your response to Professor Nelson's stance?
I think it's a fantastic example of what a blind ideological commitment to Israel will lead one into. And so he made a choice between the preservation of academic freedom and the preservation of Israel's reputation, and he chose the latter. It's no more complicated than that.
Were you surprised by the level of the response in support of you being allowed to teach at the University of Illinois, both at the student level, university associations? Explain all the levels that came to your defense and what most surprised you.
What most surprised me was the revelations of how many people were working behind the scenes on the university side to prevent this hire from happening, to prevent me from actually arriving on campus. That, to me, was most surprising. But I wasn't expecting this intensity of response. As I write in the book, I expected kind of academic trade publications to be interested in it, people in the fields of American Indian studies, people interested in Palestine, but it sort of took off, and I think it signals the fact that there has long been a profound frustration with the moves towards corporatization that are happening in universities, and a lot of people see this as a very explicit point around which they can rally.
So, Maria LaHood, the demand ultimately of this lawsuit and where it goes from here, and has there been a precedent for someone who's been hired, fired from a university, then going back to teach there?
I mean, first of all, Professor Salaita's case is unprecedented. I mean, the fact that he was summarily dismissed because of his tweets is unprecedented. So we're dealing with a situation that hasn't happened before. But, the lawsuit seeks his reinstatement. It seeks compensation for all of his losses and punitive damages because, as we've seen with the emails coming out, the university knew exactly what it's doing, exactly what it was doing. Chancellor Weiss, even before she sent Professor Salaita the termination letter, said, well, whoever sends it, I'm going to be deposed. She knew. She knew that they knew what they were doing. And I don't want to put all of the blame on her. It wasn't just her who was responsible. The board was also responsible.
I mean, didn't the chancellor say she was carrying the water of what the board chair
yeah,
of
she
Mr.
did.
Kennedy?
She said that, that she was supposed to put forth the united front, but that was, she was doing what the board wanted. And, the board has sort of skated free, and, Kennedy himself got an award of courage by the Simon Wiesenthal Center for leading the charge and firing Professor Salaita. So she's not the only one responsible at the university.
Do you think that the revelations of the emails and, of course, of the firing of the chancellor now, whether that's going to strengthen your case if it ever comes to trial?
Well, I think the fact that, all of these emails have come out, and they should continue to come out. We haven't, we're in the middle of discovery now, so we're expecting more documents, more records. We'll have depositions. Who knows what more we'll find out. So I think hopefully the university is in a position where they don't want to just have resignations, but they also want to do justice and actually reinstate Professor Salaita.
A new report by the nonprofit Palestine Legal and the Center for Constitutional Rights has documented hundreds of cases of Palestinian rights activists in the United States being harassed, disciplined, fired, sued, censored, or threatened for their advocacy around Palestine. 85% of these cases targeted students or scholars. Professor Salaita, can you talk about this in your own case?
It's a stunning report, although its findings aren't necessarily surprising for those of us who have been involved in the issues of Palestine advocacy on campus. We know that there's long been forms of repression in some cases, there's been criminalization. People lose jobs, they don't get tenured. Students for Justice in Palestine get their chapters shut down sometimes. So, it's fantastic and groundbreaking to have a singular document that chronicles some of these incidents, and it finds nearly 300 incidents in less than 2 years, which is a pretty stunning number.
Did the chancellor resign, or was she fired, by the way?
She resigned, but she resigned under a deal in which she was supposed to receive what was allegedly the remainder of her contract amount, but the board rejected that, $400,000. So, but she still gets to, she'll be on a paid sabbatical for a year, and she'll get to return to her $300,000 faculty position. Unlike Professor Salaita.
And the timetable of this lawsuit, when would you expect to be back at the University of Illinois or teaching there for the first time?
We're still engaged in discovery. We don't, litigation is unfortunately slow.
Well, we want to thank both of you for being with us. Professor Stephen Salaita is now Edward Said Chair of American Studies at the American University of Beirut. Last year, his job offer from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign was withdrawn after he posted tweets critical of the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza. His book on civil rights, Palestine and the Limits of Academic Freedom. And thank you so much to Maria LaHood. That does it for the show. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez for another edition of Democracy Now!